Greetings all and welcome to Dave's Craft Room, and on today's video we are buried alive under Mount Scrapmore. This is Mount Scrapmore. These aren't really scraps, I just put them on top. This is Mount Scrapmore. She never shrinks. And obviously the only way to make her shrink is to make scrap quilts. I actually really love making scrap quilts. It's just that recently I've had so many other assignments that I haven't had the chance. And so today is the day. I'm gonna make a scrap quilt, a crazy quilt, a scrap crazy quilt out of purely scraps. I'm not allowed to buy any more fabric. And this is the style I'm doing. These are stitch and flip blocks based off of this foundation. I should say based off of a foundation. I pulled some fabric that I don't really like from my stash, or that I didn't need anymore, or don't see myself using in any other way, to use as foundation. I don't really like pinks or pastel colors, and I'm not super into flowers. So, but I had a lot in my stash, so I just cut them using this ruler, 9.5 inches. And then all we do is stitch and flip. It's easy. I was inspired to do it this way by a series by Kris O'Neill called Lessons from an Old Quilt. I am obsessed with her series. There's gonna be links to it in this video stuff. There are two quilts that I'm taking inspiration from, because she has this one quilt where they're kind of blocks, improv blocks, square in between blue sashing. I'm also gonna use this blue sashing. That quilt, those blocks on that quilt that I'm talking about, they have like applique on it. I'm not gonna do all that. Then she has another Lesson from an Old Quilt, and that one's just a flimsy, where it's stitch and flip blocks based off of a foundation. And then she has a tutorial on how to do it, because I know how to do it, but she does have a tutorial on how to do it. And that one doesn't have sashing, so I'm doing kind of a hybrid, because I want to do these blocks like this, and then put this blue sashing in. I think it's gonna be stunning. And I'm gonna tie it. I just recently gave Emma her quilt Chaos, which I tied, and I really liked the effect. So I'm gonna tie it. This is a scrap quilt. There's no need to spend all my time quilting it, even though machine quilting is, I think, faster, but I wanna do the ties. I think it's gonna look cool. I really hope, and I am praying to the fabric goddesses, that this blue fabric is enough. Oh, I don't think it's gonna be enough. I can't buy more fabric. This is a scrap quilt. I'm meant to use up all my scraps. I can't be allowed to just go and buy more. So, but I want to do 3-inch. This is a 3-inch ruler. I want to do 3-inch sashing strips. In the final quilt, they'll look 2.5 inches because of seam allowance, but that's how thick I want them. I need to cut them 3 inches, so I just really hope. And sashing also all the way around, too. So that's, oh, I don't know if that's gonna be enough. This might be a situation where we pull another blue and we just use it too, and it won't match, but we call that interest. Maybe we're gonna channel that energy if I don't have enough. I'm gonna cut this whole thing into 3-inch strips. And then these, I'm going to marathon piece, okay? Today is Sunday morning. We're gonna see how far I can get in one day. Okay, so you'll see a montage of me doing this stuff, and then I'll come back and we'll show how far I got on this day. I wanna do a quick quilt, if you will, and that's it. So let's get started.
I've been cycling meets a new guy in the cycling club.
Nice to have a riding partner today.
Oh.
This block is so easy. To start, I grab 2 random scraps, place them right sides together, and then sew them onto the middle of the foundation. That way they're sewed onto the foundation with the same seam that's sewing them together. After the initial 2 scraps, I add 1 scrap at a time until the whole foundation is covered, and then I'm gonna trim it in the end. It's a very simple block, and if you want a more detailed tutorial, I'm gonna put a link below to Kris O'Neill's video on her channel Sew the Distance, where she goes into more detail on how to make the block. Look at this. I think I was testing a Sharpie on a fabric and it says Dave's Craft Room. This block is very versatile. You could definitely sort your scraps into colors and make color coordinated ones, or do it by value or whatever. For my blocks, I'm letting it be completely random. Oh, I sewed two together. I've noticed that when a lot of people make scrap quilts, they tend to follow this rule. They don't allow two pieces of the same fabric to touch. And I think the reason is we want it to look more random and have more variety. And it kind of feels wrong, like this is a waste of a seam if I'm sewing the same piece of fabric together. That's fine. The quilts usually turn out stunning. You really can't go wrong with a scrap quilt anyway. But in my own quilts, I never really vibed with that rule because when I allow myself to sew two pieces of the same fabric together, it creates more interesting shapes than what I could achieve with only one piece. Like on these two blocks on the screen, they have this angular frame on one side. I could not have achieved that shape unless I allowed two pieces of the same fabric to touch. I know it feels very wrong to have two pieces of the same fabric touch, but you might like the strange and interesting shapes that you can get if you decide to try it. I want to tell you about Kris O'Neill's series Lessons from an Old Quilt because it was those videos that inspired this quilt, and it probably inspired some of my other quilts as well. In each video she has an old quilt and she covers a very wide variety of different quilts. She shows you the whole quilt and she goes over how the blocks were made, how it was put together, how it was quilted, and like what kind of fabric was used, and then she lists all the lessons we can learn from the quilt. I really like this series because of how many different kinds of quilts she has, some that are really weird, and it just goes to show that there are so many different ways to make a quilt. There really is no right or wrong way. So the link to her playlist is going to be below the video, so if you're interested, check it out. The blocks are done. They're here. And I want to show you the Mount Scrubmore pile. This is what has become of it. As usual, the scrap quilt didn't put a dent in it, but it is what it is. I have to clean it up now. I did not do this on purpose, but here it is. Okay, here I go putting the blue sashing on, and I probably would have preferred to have enough blue for the whole quilt, but just like I suspected, I actually only had enough to sash exactly half the blocks. And so I used black sashing on the other half of the quilt, and I arranged them in this kind of stair-step pattern. Alright, it is 6:30 p.m. and I am pooped. I got all 56 stitch and flip blocks done and sewn to the sashing. I didn't sew the blocks together yet, but that's all for today. That's a wrap on today, and I'll finish it later. 7 blocks wide by 8 long. Okay, this is the final result. I love it because it was so easy, and I love a scrappy quilt. That's all for today's video. Like and subscribe to my channel, and please come again.